Hello and welcome to The Natural Way of Life. I'm super excited to bring you this video, and this is my recommendations for numerology books. So numerology is one of my passions. It's something I live by, and it's something that helped me immensely on my own healing journey too. So I'm going to show you in this video a couple of books. Bearing in mind I have loads, guys. Like, my bookshelves are full of all topics, but numerology, that's got a lot of books, and over the time, I have spent quite a lot of money on the books. So I'm going to share this info with you and my thoughts on what's maybe good about some and not so good. So if you are interested in this subject or in this area, it may help you then to maybe make some choices on which books might benefit you and which won't. So we're going to get into it. One of my favourite authors, his books though, guys, I will say they are not beginner level. I think you have to have quite an understanding of numerology to begin with, because these books are quite detailed and quite in depth. So even with me, I will take some of the information. So it's that whole thing, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. So some of the breakdowns, maybe some of the calculations. I also have a preference. So if you're into numerology, you will know this. My preferred method, which I think is one of the most common ones, is called the Pythagorean method. I knew this was going to happen. I'm just going to get tongue twisted. But you know what? I'm not going to super edit my videos because I'm not perfect. Basically, the Pythagorean method, invented by Pythagoras, supposedly, in numerology, way back. That's what I mean. Numbers have been around forever. So that method is the add along. So you add each number along, then you get to a number, and then you can look at that and then maybe reduce that down. The reason I prefer that is because every number is relevant. So let's say you're adding a date of birth along and then you get to 32. Then obviously you add that and that gets to 5. But the other two numbers prior to that, the 3 and the 2, still have an influence over that person and their energy. Just like if it was another 5 life path and it equaled 23 or 14, those numbers are going to have a slightly different variation. So we will get into that in a bit, but that is my preferred method, because in numerology, if you go super deep into it and you are like an expert, trust me, reducing just to numbers 1 to 9 and only looking at them, you're literally, it's like tapping into a tiny surface level part of it. That's why with me, anyone that comes to me or knows that I read for them, they know I'm going to dig into all layers of it, and that's how you get a more accurate result. So one of the first authors I will show you here, this book, and I love all things healing. This is by Brill, okay? I would say these books are quite old though, guys. Like, you can still pick them up online, but they're probably published back in like the 2000s, maybe like 2009, I think this one was. So this one's all about healing. So this looks at your numbers and also health conditions, which I love. So if we so should I show you the funny one? So like if we just turn to one of the pages, I'll give you an example. So for instance, the letter H in the table, Pythagorean method, H equals 8. Okay, so illnesses and diseases beginning with the letter H have anger, frustration, and power issues, and a need for personal recognition as one of their basic causes. So he does that like intro into each chapter, and then he goes through. But again, this is what I like. So look, we're not just saying, oh, this is an 8 vibration or that's a 4 vibration, this illness. You're actually looking as well at the 2 numbers before, which are super crucial. So for instance, headache is, if we add that up, that brings us to 35. And then obviously looking at that fully then is an 8 energy. But he talks about what the 2 letters in front mean, what the 8 energy will mean. He really does go into detail. So if you're someone that likes a lot of detail, or you maybe have that interest in healing too, I would really recommend this. It is kind of done as a bit of a workbook though. So he does go through, obviously, the chapters, the theories behind the numerology, how it works, finding challenge numbers, identifying solutions, and then obviously the numerology interpretation of specific illness and diseases. So I definitely recommend this one. I love this one. I'm always dipping in and out of this book for sure, because I find with healing work too, it can be really useful to look at a different perspective of what's really behind the illness. I love to look at the root cause, but also in numerology, because there are some things that you're just going to be more destined to come across on your journey. So I will use myself as an example. Lifepath is a 33-6, okay, which is a slightly different vibration to other 6 life paths. One of the words, or one of the things I learned from in this book, is like fatigue. That has the same 33 vibration. I'm always fatigued. So there are some things, do you know what I mean, that are just like destined that you're gonna have, you know, maybe troubles or challenges with, I'm gonna call it. So yeah, I like to say as well, with every number you have the highest potential and then you have the challenge energy of it. No number is better or worse. So Michael Brill, totally recommend that book, guys, but like I say, not for beginner level, because it may be a bit too deep for you. Book number 2, also by Michael Brill here. See, this one is Numerology for Decoding Behavior. So personal numbers can be quite useful with work, family and relationships. So even if you just have a keen interest in numerology and you just use it in your everyday life, you don't have to be doing readings for people. But again, this can be very helpful. I will say though, again, there are parts of this, I wouldn't say it's beginner level, because some of this is quite complex. Some of the teachings within this book, and what I find with a lot of people who do books on numerology, talk about numerology, what can get a bit confusing, which does kind of annoy me, is people come up with their own methods and names for different numbers. And I've fell into that trap before of buying books thinking, oh great, another numerology book, oh my god, but then basically what they say as a core level of like the numbers and the energy will resonate, but all these complicated, overcomplicated methods to get different numbers, and then they call different numbers different things. So like what we might know as like your life path, you know, your soul purpose, your job description in this life, you know, what your soul's here to do, we call it a life path, yeah? And then you've generally got your soul urge number, your destiny number, personality number, you know, those kind of core. But different people start calling them all different names, and then different ways of how they'll calculate to get there. And that's when I feel like it just gets a bit like everyone's trying to sell you their own method. That's why I like the straight approach. You add along, then there's different ways again that you calculate a destiny number, soul urge number, but it's using the Pythagorean method with the chart and the numbers. That is the best. But also, again, paying attention to every detail. So again, this does talk about all details of numbers, so it is great, and I do like, you know, all of his work as well. Yeah, achievement numbers, core issues in life, finding solutions to achievement numbers and challenge numbers, determining name challenges. So again, there is a lot to it. But these books, again, they're really good if you're on your own healing journey and want to have a deeper look at within yourself. So I totally recommend Michael Brill's. Here we go. But they are more, I'd say, advanced, intermediate, advanced level for sure. Now, I'm sure a lot of you may have heard of this one. Dan Millman, The Life You Were Born to Live. Okay, a guide to finding your life purpose. So this book predominantly focuses on your life purpose, also known as your life path number, which I would call it. So again, he uses that straight across method, as I call it, to calculate. He looks at the strengths and challenges of each life path and its number. He also, I will say, includes some of his own ways that you can potentially work through some of the challenges. So I will give you an example on my own number, but I do love it because when people say a 1 life path, like, you know how many variations there are of a 1? There's a 10 one, there's a 19 one, there's a 28 one, there's a 37 one, and a 37 one is going to be very different to a 28 one life path. So it's like he talks about the different energies that the other numbers hold as well, which I find is really crucial and helps build a more of an awareness to that. Just like I will connect the other numbers as well to like energy points within the body. I call them chakras. Some people might be aware of that, but he talks through it in a slightly different way, but the energy of how he describes the numbers still resonates with the chakra energy too. So for instance, and I don't know, I'm really annoyed, I've just opened the book and found that I've got a rip in my page. So back to this Dan Millman book, and the example I was going to show to you guys is the 33/6 My Actual Life Path. So just a little sneak peek. So it talks about obviously the 6 energy of that, vision through acceptance, and then the double 3, so 2 lots of 3, expression through sensitivity, which is why the 33/6 is highly more sensitive and very different variation to a 24/6, a 15/6, or a 42/6. They're very different. And then in most systems with 33, an 11, or a 22 or 44, they are seen as master numbers. So it's a double intensity there, very different number and energy. So he talks about all these life paths in a lot of depth, okay? Then he goes about working through in the positive element, in the negative element. He talks about life path issues, so maybe to do with health. He talks about relationships, talents, works, and finances for each. Then he has a little section of some well-known 33/6s, a topic then of keys to fulfilling your destiny, guidelines, recommendations, useful questions, and then yes, so the spiritual, he talks as well in his books about spiritual laws, so the leverage to change your life. So there's different examples of that: law of flexibility, of perfection, of choices, of intuition, and the present moment. And again, he talks about those kind of elements and how they show up for the different life paths. He also in the chapters talks about, so say you've got the life paths 1 through to 9, as the basic level, but within that there'll be like the 11s or the 22s or the 33s, but he does, so this is the 7 one, he does then just talk about like each number on its own. But I like his because it's kind of unique and it's his own take on things, and unlike a lot of other books that I've bought, his is like his own kind of words, do you know what I mean, and his own take on it. And that's what I admire when people put their own energy onto something, okay? Because once you get into numerology and you study, you will start to know the vibrations of different numbers and what they mean. But he's not trying to like take loads of other people's work and reference it. Like, this is his own. And this is a great book, again, even just you want to get to know a little bit more about your family and your friends. I highly recommend this because you can like literally try it out on all your family, your friends, your partners, and you'll see how accurate it is. Yeah, and I think online he has a little free calculator too to calculate your life purpose. So yeah, this was one of my faves, and again, you can dip in and out of this book. I wouldn't say read it cover to cover. You just go through and have a look at what you need, or you know, the life paths you need or want to know more about. But again, there is so much detail. I don't think anyone could just write one book in it to cover everything. So yeah, that's his interesting take on it, and I like that. Now, one that I'm a little bit on, I will show you this one. So some of you may have heard of this numerologist before, Felicia Bender. Okay, now I got this book on master numbers because I have a 33 life path and I also have an 11 on my soul urge. I was intrigued. I wanted to know more about master numbers, and I've been on my numerology journey for years. Like, literally, I've been in study groups for it. I've studied with different numerologists for it. I read in it. I kind of trust my own intuition with it and my own connection with numbers and what it means for me. And I'm always learning something new. So I was looking online at one point several years ago, and this was one of the books that came up about master numbers. So there are some interesting points in here, okay? I will say that I don't resonate with all of her calculation methods. So she uses like these reducing ones, which I think are okay as a cross-reference, but I generally always think the across method is best. And then if you want to double check someone's chart for like maybe a master number or a karmic number in case it shows up in a different method, then maybe use another one. But yeah, she talks about what their master numbers are, elements of numerology, where master numbers might show up. So for instance, your name, your life path, somewhere else, even personal years. So there is a lot of detail. However, I will say this. Her writing style, I don't know if I'm too keen on. I just found it, and she references, this is one of my pet peeves, like, don't write a book, okay, just my opinion, you might not like it. Don't write a book if all you're going to do is reference other people's work. What's the point in that? If I'm buying your book, I want to know because I want your take on things, not what anyone else says. So look, you'll see here at the back, just to show you what I mean about this book, is like acknowledgements, okay, end notes, right? So she's had to reference like all these other people or books or quotes where she's got things from. So there's like 1, 2, 3. She's even quoting Dan Millman's work. 4, 5, 6. Like 6 pages of having to quote where you've obviously took information from other people's work. So you see, like, and she has to quote their page, and obviously that's, I guess, part of writing a book, or it would be copyright. But you can see there, and it's like, you know, someone else's book, chapter 16, number 4, The Complete Idiot's Guide to Numerology, for instance, she's quoted. And I just think things like that kind of annoy me a bit, because when I was reading it, it is a bit annoying when it feels like, yeah, it's not all her work and her words, if that makes sense. I would rather read something from someone else's, whether it's their opinion, experience. That was my only thing with this book. So it's got some interesting points. And obviously if you have got master number energy in your chart, it's got some interesting points of, you know, how to like work with that energy. It's okay. I'm going to say it's okay. But on the precept that if I'd have known initially when I was buying it that a lot of this would have been cross-referenced, I probably would have held back on that purchase. And on to the next recommendation. So this one I got, it kind of stood out to me. Some of you may have heard of her before, Glynis McCants. Hope I've said that correct. But yeah, Glynis. I got this book, Love by the Numbers. Now I think she does a few other books. I haven't got those because I already have quite an awareness of all the numbers. I wanted some more on relationships and numerology. So I got this one a couple of years ago. So yeah, Love by the Numbers, how to find great love or reignite the love you have through the power of numerology. So again, even if you've just got an interest in it, you do have to have that kind of mind though, guys. I will say this with these books, because with numerology, it is about learning, understanding, and with the calculations. So you have got to be prepared to put in a little bit of work to find out, you know, the answers, so to speak. I like this one. It's easy enough to read. I wouldn't say it's overly complicated. I've seen her on a few TV shows as well. Glynis, she does use the add across method, which I like, although she doesn't really talk that much in detail about those other numbers that occur in our chart. She does show you again here. I like the date of birth calculation. So, you know, someone that's born on February the 27th, 1930, you add the 2 plus the 2 plus the 7 plus the 1 plus the 9 plus the 3, and obviously 0 is nothing, so you get a 24. So they are, how I would do that's a 24/6, but obviously she then does 2 plus 4 is the 6. So yes, you still get the same kind of result, but yeah, I prefer that method. So it is quite, she does list in her book ways to do that and how to do the calculations, and I find like that is quite a simple approach as well. The same way as well, if you were like looking how to add a full name and find out their soul number or their personality number, it is there with examples, and that's quite fairly easy to do. So when it comes to obviously couples, she does give examples of, I think, celebrity couples. She teaches you how to do a chart comparison, which I will show you on this page, which can be quite useful. Obviously your soul numbers, personality numbers, power name numbers, birthday numbers, life path numbers, and attitude numbers. And I know from doing this on myself before, but also for clients where I've done readings, and you know, they wanna know relationship stuff, and it's accurate, and she has her way of looking at the numbers. So certain numbers will be natural match, which will mean easier, more understanding, you know, just that natural match in a relationship. Then you'll have obviously challenge numbers that are maybe just compatible, and that does tie in. Some people maybe then reference that more to like, you know, that soulmate energy or karmic or challenging or toxic relationships, but this is kind of her own take on that as well. There is again space at the back of the book, I will show you, to do your own little calculations. And obviously, as I was talking about, this is the Pythagorean number system, which she also has here referenced in her book as well. So I like this book. There was a lot to it. It's also kind of fun. You can dip in and out of it. And it's great. Like, if you're into numbers, you know, before you even like date anybody, you know you're going to be checking your numbers. But as she also makes an amazing point in this book too, and this would be real life examples too, I would say, for people, is remember this: every number is only a potential of that highest energy or that lower side of the challenge energy. Also, like she said, you could have perfectly matching numbers. Everything could look like on paper, like, oh my god, yeah, you guys would be a great match. But what that doesn't account for is, say for instance, if someone is in that negative side of the energy, if someone is addicted or has addiction issues to drugs or alcohol, or is abusive or is toxic, then you just straight away, you cannot even entertain that relationship. Doesn't matter how great the numbers are. She does talk about that too. And the same way again, if your numbers are full of challenge numbers in each other's charts, like she says, unless you're living up on the middle of nowhere in a tiny little hut away from the world where you're not going to have any challenges or problems, you're just probably never going to work. So I like this book. I haven't got her others, but this was quite a good one with relationship stuff. I like that. Okay, and just to show you just randomly 2 others, guys, also let me know in comments if any of you do have any good book recommendations too, because I am always looking for a new book. And because I buy a lot of books like secondhand as well, or from bookstores, it's like I don't always know reviews before I actually get them. This was just a fun little one. This was Numerology and Your House, because again, numerology can be applied to everything: your pets, your partners, your house, your life, everything. And yeah, so this is also using how astrology and numerology influence your street address, which I like. So it goes through the energies of each number of house, how to calculate those, and just it's only a short read. It's a bit of fun, but it will tell you, like, you know, the energy of a house, potential health issues that may arise living in that home too. I think that's done from the astrology approach. And then also how each star sign would be compatible with living in each house number. So that's a fun one too. Also, this is one of my newer ones, guys, that I just kind of came across. Although it, again, I'm going to say this is more old style. Yeah, this is from early 2000s. Maybe even 1988, something like this. It's old, but again, master numbers. I wanted to hear someone else's take. I wanted to go a bit deeper into it, and this is really interesting because this has a lot of kind of, I'm gonna say, godly references, wisdom. Yeah, there's a lot esoteric numerology, new golden age, through the digits, special numbers. But yeah, there are a lot of like Bible references in this too, which initially didn't really resonate with me because I'm not like a religious person. I was brought up that way, but now I have my own beliefs and I feel like I'm my own religion, basically. I am my own beliefs. But actually, that being said, it was amazing to see. I love, again, like how they add things up because it's done in the method I would do it. But yeah, like, look, all the energy which we know as 6 is, like here, truth equals 6, justice equals 6, understanding equals 6, compassionate equals 6, word equals 6, artist equals 6. So again, these words, like every word holds energy and vibration. And this book, the way they do this, I think is incredible. So I haven't fully read this one, guys, but just from dipping in and out, I do like it. But like I say, it's not from the perspective you may think initially. Like I said, when I was getting this book, I didn't really know what to expect. I just knew it was one I hadn't read yet. So there's some interesting stuff, just like, you know, with the 33 energy again, like the words blessing, savior and teacher all hold that divine 33 energy. And it talks about that in here too, which, you know, I resonate. It makes a lot of sense. And obviously it was purple. I got drawn to it, didn't I? One of my favorite colors. Purple is 7. That's spiritual energy. So yeah, I would say it's worth a read, but just have an open mind to some of these things. Like I say, I like things that add in a certain way. And I like things that make sense, that aren't overly complicated. It's not through intelligence. Sometimes it's just when people overcomplicate certain books, which I'll show you in other videos, it just makes it not that easy to read. So yeah, just to recap then. So latest purchase. And also, guys, let me know, this was by Faith Javan. I do prefer older books because sometimes I find the new age stuff a bit like, it's just not always for me. But this was like a fun one that I had, Numerology in Your House by Amanda E. Burgess. Then we have the Glynis McCants book. The Felicia Bender one that I'm like... But also, yeah, let me know in comments your thoughts on her stuff. I don't really resonate with all of it, but again, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Dan Millman, that is a must. And the Micro Brill books too. I highly recommend those. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you found this helpful.